Good morning from the next day. It is just before sunrise and we have perfect conditions here. Actually too good, kind of similar to yesterday morning, but there's no wind, which means we're down at the same location, the Explora Hotel Boardwalk, because when there's no wind, you get this reflection, which looks perfect. And what I've been doing is trying to utilize the rocks in the lake and create foreground interest, because you've probably seen lots of photos from Torres del Paine before using these like dead logs. You can see one in the water right there. And on this lake, this little lagoon, I don't think that they look any good, to be honest. There's a couple in the water, but they really don't look that great at all. So instead, trying to use the rocks on this perfect reflection to create interest in the foreground, utilizing a polarizer. And the polarizer is really having an effect on the sky right now too. So I'll show you here with the Sony a7R5. I've been going to video mode just to readjust my exposure real quick and record here. If I change the polarizer, you can really see how it makes a difference. So it's a bit blowing out there, and I bring it around and it really emphasizes the sky and the clouds and the color.
Evening, guys. Welcome to another Friday night of Landscape Lenscast podcast with myself, Paul Cunningham, Steve Stain, Douglas Milne, and Alistair McDonald. And of course, we're going to have another big guest on tonight, another YouTuber, and also, of course, videographer, which is Greg Snell. Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Paul. Thanks for having me. I actually just arrived in Canada yesterday, so a bit of a time difference, but I'm happy to be home and happy to join you guys here.
Great, and we're real pleased of you coming on as well. And of course, just to say, of course, guys, Greg, if you probably know him quite a lot from these videos he does on YouTube, he's an excellent videographer, and he's a lot of beautiful, cracking shots around the traveling photographer, goes around the world in different places like the Antarctic, etc. After graduating from the College of the Rockies in British Columbia, Greg was the founder of Snail Media, and of course has worked as an adventure tour leader across South America, Europe, East Africa, and notably Patagonia. He is an avid video producer and photographer. Significant social media following. Greg won, of course, Tourism Australia Best Jobs in the World competition. Since then, he has focused on growing Snail Media, which offers digital marketing packages, and of course for travel industry professionals. He has been featured on various media platforms, of course, and pursued multiple adventures. Now that includes climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and other exploring the glaciers of central Iceland. And the founder of Snail's Media, of course, on video and photo production services. Greg's an expert in travel photography and cinematic video production, Adobe Suite, editing, drone operation, and he is fully certificated in EASA drone pilot. That'll be Greg Snail. And Greg, thank you for coming on. Greg, one of the questions I want to ask you, just to start off with, is, of course, just tell us, where your love for videography and photography came from.
Yeah, good question. Thanks for the intro. I'm proud of those things, so it's cool to hear you mention them here in the podcast. Thank you. My love for videography started through traveling, essentially. Going to British Columbia here in Canada and exploring the mountains and the back roads and looking for sort of those corners of our land that are beautiful and trying to capture them, just like you guys all do. We're all landscape photographers. We know that feeling, and a big part of it for me is traveling and getting to explore the world and just capturing that. Being inspired by television programs and documentaries and thinking that I could kind of transcend photography by creating moving images and therefore video, a lot of time lapse work, and sort of just fell into videography mostly because it was making more money than photography was. I could sell video services 10 years ago more than I could sell like still images. So
Okay.
I found when I put them both together, I could kind of jumpstart my business. But
Yeah.
that's how I got into it.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I think some of the footage and the B-roll, watching your videos, is amazing. And the images we're going to see tonight, guys, you will appreciate the work he puts into it. It's phenomenal images. And we'll get these up later, actually. What's more important to you in regards to, is it the storytelling of your videos, or is it the footage in regards to the images you get? What's more important to you as Greg Snell?
The quality, like the epicness of it. I'm not as much of a storyteller. I do appreciate good story, but I like to create, yeah, really like banger footage, just good clips.
Yeah, so there's more of the artist support, of course, and yeah, and that's what it's all about, of course, as well. I mean, most of us remember, of course, F4 way back. When you guys had, I must have a whale of a time creating that. What was, how much fun was that doing that, making that serious?
It wasn't fun at all, actually. It was extremely stressful, especially having to deal with these fucking egomaniacs like Gavin Hardcastle, Thomas Heaton. You think he's all chill and nice, but is a mess. Putting the five of us together was quite interesting,
Yeah,
and we were kind of winging it as well. It was the idea was just to create long form YouTube videos, and make it as uncomfortable as possible. So
yeah,
it was quite the adventure, and
yeah.
a lot of post production as well. We did a lot of work in regard to editing. I edited a few of the episodes and editing the little trailers that people get to see, and then the guys did their post processing. That was intense. I'm a Canadian. I don't spend too much time in the United States. So being able to drive through Washington and Oregon and California and Las Vegas, which was crazy. I'm not a gambler. So Vegas was kind of like another world for me. It was really interesting. Yeah, it was fun, but definitely challenging. As you've probably seen, we haven't done it again. So
Yeah, it was also, that was good, and I think it put a lot of you guys on like the stage of like up the top of YouTube, in regards to photographers, videographers, etc. But the amount of work it's put into is, I mean, of course, that is appreciated. But back then, it's like it was only like a shelf life of maybe a couple of years, and then you guys pulled it, never to be seen again, of course. But I thought it was great. I really did. I mean, I got it. I think it was. I mean, it was quite expensive, but it's worth it. I mean, if I say to people, buy it. It's got everything. It's got like you'll learn about photography, all aspects. You'll learn about just the guys in generals, what they're like, and you also get a bit of fun on the way. But Nick Page, etc. When you're driving that trailer, it was just amazing. The footage, it was really good.
like we ended up giving it away for free. This is like a 1970s trailer for those of you who haven't seen what we're talking about, and just a really piece of crap. Like I think Nick bought it for like $600 or something, and this is like a full on like trailer. You could live in it, but it was really bad condition, and we made it much worse by the end of like I don't know 3 weeks, and just gave it away at the end to some guy in Vegas. He picked it up in a parking lot in like Walmart. Yeah, it's a very American experience.
Yeah, yeah, and it was good. And of course, just to wrap that up, it was pretty much one of the memorable things, of course, on YouTube when it comes to photography. No one's touched it anything like that since. It was a one-off thing, and I think that's where when you do something like that, you never go back. You go forward. Sometimes you do go back and try something, it doesn't work out. So I understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was good. It
I
was good.
remember. I remember when Tom asked me to film the whole thing too. We were in Patagonia working together, and he said, "Hey, I got a project idea that I think you might be perfect for. Would you like to come on this road trip with Gavin Hardcastle, Nick Page, and Adam Gibbs, and basically just run around like a chicken with your head cut off and try and film all of us together?" And my first answer was, "Fuck no." And then he was like, "Well, I'll pay you." And I was like, oh, okay, now we're talking. All right. So luckily for me, it was a relatively well-paid gig, considering I was the only one actually getting paid. The rest of them were doing it out of their pocket until they got the sales back from however much they sold it for to however many people, right? So in the end, it ended up being a pretty sweet gig. But yeah, I don't think you'll see it again, Paul. I don't think it's going to
No,
happen again.
I mean I've got it, but yeah, I mean it's well worth. If you did keep a hold of it and don't lose it or anything. But yeah, it's a good. If sorry guys, if you've not seen it, just speaking to the viewers, if you've not seen the F4 road trip, you know, ask your friends in the photography community. Somebody may have it. It's really well worth a watch. But as
Or you could
Greg
find it
says,
on like a torrent website. You download it
some
illegally.
dodgy, so some kind of torrent where you can go in and download it over. So yeah, guys, Steve, any questions so far?
It was just with regards to the F4. What was the trailer actually because you couldn't afford anything else, or was it a joke in its own right?
Oh, it was absolutely a joke. No, that was. I mean, these guys are not poor. You know, they're rich YouTubers, especially Nick Page. Jesus Christ. No, it was totally a joke, and that one I think was Nick's idea because he's the one who bought it. He bought it in Washington like months before we actually arrived, and I drove down from Vancouver with Adam and Gavin, and Gavin at the time had a BMW, and
Nice.
you know, we drove down and we saw this trailer and we were like, oh my god, you know, this is what we're going to be sleeping in. So I luckily brought a tent with me, and Nick has a rooftop tent, so it wasn't necessarily like we all had to sleep in this trailer.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was, to answer your question, Alistair, it was absolutely manufactured. The idea was to make it like very dramatic and uncomfortable, and that would be kind of the underlying tension throughout the whole trip. Would be like, this is so, I don't like these guys, I don't want to be here, and I got this shitty ass trailer and it's raining and it's like damp, you know, it's just, and we're in America. All those things together just create for some very entertaining content.
Yeah.
And it is actually so well done that you don't know if this is real or not.
Yeah.
And even when they broke up and said, we're never doing this again. So the arguments with Gavin and Thomas, and even the fights that they've done since then, it's like they must be best mates, but at times it really does look like they don't like each other. But you got to tell me otherwise, aren't you?
I think you got like a really good vibe there, because I think like we still talk, the four of us, but they all live very separate lives. So when they do come together, it is almost always like an opportunity for a collaboration. And all of the four of those YouTubers are relatively ambitious, you know, except for maybe Adam. He's not, and Nick's not necessarily super ambitious, but he does a lot. So when they do get together, it's more drama and than like camaraderie in a really great way though. Like, I think they're good mates, but they're not like seeing each other every week, you know. It's not like doing a podcast like this, you know?
It's like we had Adam on recently, and the first thing he said was, "Don't ask me about Gavin Hardcastle."
There you go, man. Enough said. And then the one time that Gavin and Thomas do a video together, they get in a fight. You know?
It's great. Well, that's a joke in it. That's a joke in it within these guys. You know, when you all meet up with different experiences. I know you and Tom have met up a couple of times. Tom did a video where you guys met somewhere in Europe. Was it? Is that right?
Yeah, I took him to the red light district in Hamburg.
Nice. Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tried to get him into a strip club, but he's too like
conservative,
not modest. I would say afraid.
Yeah. It's not his. It's not. He's got the good boy kind of approach. He doesn't like to be the rough and ready type or anything.
Well, it's also not really a good place to vlog, you know.
We saw a few videos as well.
Yeah.
Saw a few videos.
But he was using his X-Pan there. Sorry, just to continue on that story, because the red light district is actually really good for neon lights. And that film camera is this beautiful like pano film camera, and he was using like a specific film that he really liked for neon lights. So that's why I took him to the red light district.
Yeah, I remember that.
But granted, I don't actually go down there very often either. It's sort of a bit touristy in Hamburg. But anyway.
I remember him being quite kind of surprised at how well you could talk to camera in a city street. And he's still very sort of like, I don't want to do this. Very self-conscious. I think probably most of us are that self-conscious. But you just go for it. You just love
not me
walking out in front of people, talking away, no issues at all.
Yeah, I've been through this now for quite a while. I've been making videos since 2007, and I was vlogging in like 2013, and it was definitely pretty awkward. I had the Canon 5D Mark III, and you know, I'd vlog with like just my hand and the 16 to 35 2.8, which is actually a great vlogging lens, but it's not focal length, but it's not image stabilized, so it'd be shaky as hell. And like, you know, you can't flip the screen around, so you don't really know if you're getting like a good composition. And people would look at me so strange, man. I'd be walking through the streets of like Sydney, Australia, talking to my camera with a microphone on the front. People, I'm sort of over
It,
that now.
it was a good look though. I mean, you and Brendan used to have sort of like a gimbal and the camera on top, and I actually ordered the gimbal and tried. Well, I was going to put the camera on it and give this a try. Just holding the gimbal was like, this isn't for me. This is just not for me at all. So I take my hat off to you guys for being able to do that. I'll just stick with my GoPro if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's heavy as fuck, man. Like, and I get like a gimbal muscle in my back in my chest here because you hold it like this, you know. Yeah,
Time gimbal muscle.
yeah. I have to change hands too. You know, I don't know if you guys have any experience with changing hands, but sometimes you got to use your other hand to get like a different experience. You know, and change those muscles up a little bit.
I've developed a DJI Pocket 2 shoulder. It's kind of like
Yeah, yeah. Now gimbals are a pain in the ass, to be honest. Like they're not great, especially for the travel content that I do. You know, I think this new DJI Osmo Pocket
Oh.
is absolutely the answer.
Just
And
ordered it.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh yeah, nice, Steve. That's
Yeah.
cool. You're gonna love it, man.
Literally,
The
we're using
microphone
it
is
now
amazing
on the
too.
webcam. Yeah, I'm very impressed with
Oh,
it.
sick. Okay.
My problem is struggle with walking. I've got bad knees, etc., and I need to downgrade my kit. I've got gimbals, full frame cameras, there's vlogging cameras, tripods galore, and I just need to tighten my gear up. So I've gone for this. Seeing all the other YouTubers really using it and thinking this looks good, because I got the first one and it was rubbish. It was absolute rubbish. So tried action cameras, weren't quite happy with that. Got the Sony ZV E10 or whatever it is, which is fantastic. I love that. But this, because I can chuck it in my bag and it's easy to carry and lightweight, it's going to really work for me anyway. But yeah, very impressed.
Yeah.
Very impressed.
I just did a trip to Denmark to visit Mads Peter Iversen, and he has the exact same thing, Steve.
Right.
And another British photographer I know named James Kerwin shoots architecture, also fucking has one. So I
Yeah.
think you're right
Yeah.
on the money there, because I walk around with a Sony A7S III, and I got a 20 mil 1.8, and it's on a gimbal, and I've got that DJI mic, the same one that you got with the little Osmo Pocket, and it's pretty heavy, man. I mean, it's not stupid heavy, but it's pretty heavy. So
I think they've improved that much that they are a game changer now. I honestly don't think you need all that gubbins, and then with the mic that comes with it as well, the creator package or whatever they call it, you've got extra batteries, so battery life isn't a problem. The screen's better to look at. You've got the color grading in the video, so it's got everything you need really. It's really good.
I will say though, before we move on, that it's very good for vlogging. It's
Yes,
not
yes.
necessarily super good for videography. I mean, it's good for B-roll and like time lapse, but if you want to get like telephoto shots or shallow depth of field, you know, wildlife, it's not great. So it's a really good option for like me, but for vlogging, but not for my client work that I do.
If you're carrying, for a blogger, a YouTuber, you're still carrying kit with you, your camera that can do that anyway, to do the B-roll.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect combination.
Yeah, but I have a
opinion.
stills
Yeah.
camera and a video camera.
Yeah.
So, but
Right.
you're right. I mean, the stills camera
Yeah.
that I have can probably shoot really, really good video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
seeing your Antarctica trip, you had the Sony A7 Mark IV, and you had jitter problems with it, and you put up in the text that was because you had the stabilization on. At what point did you how did you find that out? Because obviously you had the problem, and then did you discuss it with other people on the ship, or did it just like was a light bulb moment?
No, I figured it out because I just bought it for that trip, and I had the 100 to 400 at 400,
Yeah.
which is always kind of difficult. And I bought it from it's a shop called Camera Canada. The owner is a passenger who comes on trips with me, and I sent him a message and basically said like, "Hey man, I'm having this issue. I'm really not happy with it. It's fucking up a lot of my footage." And he said, "Yeah, that's a bit of a known issue." So then I double checked with another Sony shooter in Vancouver, and he said the same thing. It's even worse with the 200 to 600 lens, and And yeah, that's how I figured it out. Is just by doing the footage and realizing that there's this like this kind of glitchy movement.
Yeah.
And honestly, Alistair, I got back to Canada and I returned it and swapped it for the A7R5.
Right.
And
Wow.
I only had that camera for like a month and a half, and I only went to Antarctica with it. So I'm very happy that I get to go back to Antarctica with the A7R5 and get another shot at getting some epic footage and video and photos. But I got a drone license to fly in Antarctica next year, which is
Oh, cool.
huge.
That is
So
massive.
That is huge.
that is
Oh,
awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah. Bro, I look
Mm.
forward to that. Definitely.
Yeah, but no, the shutter thing was the one of those like glitches in videography sometimes
Mhm.
that is hard to find the answer for, and then you do something silly like flick a little IS switch, or to put it on a tripod or whatever, and then it kind of goes away for a little while and then comes back, and it's like I use a teleconverter sometimes too, which I absolutely hate, and I'm like, why do I keep using this thing every time? It's like it's just a little bit softer, and I'm like, no, I want it to be fucking sharp,
Yeah.
So like I'm gonna either sell it or I don't know, use it as like a coaster, something like that. It's a piece of crap.
So, I mean, going back to Steve, you had a question, I think you were going to ask Greg.
Well, all I wanted to know was, Greg, first of all, your videos and your videography is absolutely outstanding. And you travel to all these different locations. Is there any location that you haven't been to, or that's on your bucket list that you want to go to and work there?
Yeah, Scotland, man. I mean, like in your backyard. Yeah.
Never been here.
I've been to the UK twice, and both times was in London for a conference. It's called
Right.
WTM, the World Travel Market.
Right. Yeah.
So, like having studied tourism, I worked for G Adventures, a Canadian travel company, and I studied adventure tourism in the Rocky Mountains. So I work in tourism. Like being a photographer is kind of my passion hobby that turned into a profession. But I studied tourism, so I work sort of in the broader industry, and I think the UK is just somewhere that I'm always probably going to go to at some point. So it's never been high on my bucket list. But I do believe that Scotland, and I've been to Ireland once, but as a tour leader, I'd love to go to Ireland as a photographer. So yeah, like Northern England, Scotland, and the UK. I'm less excited by Wales, but I think that also that southern part would be an awesome trip too. But I would probably go to Scotland first, I think.
Yeah, I think every part of the UK's got some epic place. You got like the Scotland, of course, you got Glencoe, places like that, which is pretty much one of the most kind of photographed areas in Scotland, probably. Well, you got Skye, which is a little island off Scotland. Beautiful location. Then England, of course, you got the Lake District. Of course, you got pretty much Pennines, Northumberland. There's beautiful parts of UK all over, and even
Yeah.
going to like Northern Ireland, you got the giant causeway. There's some beautiful parts of the UK you can visit, and
Yeah, the
Ireland
wild
itself is
Atlantic
islands.
Way in Ireland, and also even in the south. I don't want to knock it, but you got Cornwall and Devon
Oh
and
yeah,
those sort of
Definitely.
definitely.
areas.
Definitely.
And
Yeah,
I
White
watch a lot
Cliffs.
of James Popsies too, so I do think that Wales would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
So go. I
but
mean, Snowdonia.
Snowdonia, definitely.
Yeah,
It's worth
definitely.
looking.
Snowdonia is my
I've
Now,
never been
Keeping
there
an eye
before.
on your keys, Steve.
sorry.
good
You
to
know,
know. When I go, I'll pick your brain for ideas on where to hit up. But
Steve's not far from
oh,
Wales, I
really?
think.
Sweet.
I'm not. I'm in the middle
Yeah,
of
very
everything.
cool. But to give you more of like to give you like a more adventurous answer though, Steve, I think like there's still a part of me that really wants to kind of push to a bit wilder places. For example, Bolivia and the high altitude Altiplano. I think that is just right on the cusp of blowing up as an incredible destination that's super safe and easy to get to and not too expensive, and the photos are just out of this world. And then one place that I'm trying to plan a trip to right now is Tajikistan and the border with Afghanistan, which is a little bit more kind of dangerous, I guess, in regard to history and whatnot, and like hard to get to. But it's wild, wild, wild. These parts of the world that people just see photos of, and they're like,
So it's fair to say you've got an interest in culture and history as well, I believe, Greg.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course, it comes, I suppose, with doing the traveling. I suppose in it, you can't help but embrace the culture and learn the basics of the history of the place you visit. It's always great to photograph and understand what you're shooting, etc. as well. But
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
must be
That's a bit
fascinating.
harder. That's a bit harder to do as a foreigner. I find like there's a lot of local photographers that have like a much deeper understanding of those cultural traditions and whatnot. But as a travel photographer, just covering events or locations, landscape, wildlife, highlights, these wonders of the world or whatever, kind of the iconic stuff, you can at least get an idea of the basic history and culture. Like I speak Spanish fluently, that's my second language, and then my wife is German, and I speak B1 level of German, so I can kind of get by, especially with Spanish and like
It's one of the most
any
spoken
Latin
languages in the world.
Yeah, one of the most. Yeah, so I think that helps big time. Like Cuba is a great example. When I go to Cuba, I can get around much easier than just a normal tourist.
Cool.
But then,
Doug,
unlocking those things are good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That one of the things is, of course, obviously the amount of intelligence to be like a travel photographer, of speaking languages and knowing the terrain, knowing the history, knowing the geography. There's so much in it. It's not just photography, there's a lot more to it. So
and I lean a lot of local people for that too. Like what I just said to Steve, if I were to go to Wales, I would probably reach out and try and do my research and really spend the time location scouting.
Yeah, same in Scotland. Those guys will, if you want any tips on Scotland, we've certainly. Doug, he has books on Scotland. Sorry, I'm doing a little ching here for you there, Doug.
Yes.
Behind Steve, you'll see a book. It's above Steve's head, I think. Am I right, Steve? There's a book on Doug. Yeah, it's that one. So Doug does like walking tours on his book, and he just kind of tells you what spots you can walk to. Doug, you want to take it away? I'll let you do it. It's only unfair. Here he comes to his books.
That's the book.
There we go.
I've got another thing.
It's like Kintyre on it.
Yeah.
Kintyre, which is a lovely place to go, and photographers hardly ever go there. If you go to Scotland, go there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think I would go to Glencoe. I would probably go to Aberdeen and Edinburgh, and then sort of like make my way through some locals that I know. I know a few good photographers that are really kind of. I know they're Scots. Even you guys now that we're connected.
I'm from Edinburgh myself. Steve is from Coventry. Am I right, Steve? I was saying Coventry. I don't know. Is it Birmingham or Coventry?
Get this right, Paul. Get this right.
We're like
Midlands.
You just say it or not there. Kind of.
Listen, Alistair can forget everybody's name, so Paul can forget where he was from.
Exactly.
Alistair's from Fife, the Kingdom of Fife, we call it in Scotland. And Doug is from West Lothian, which is a lovely, beautiful agriculture part of Scotland. We've all got nice little bits, and if you need any heads up and tips in regards, just give us a.
The one thing I'd really like to do is go to a Partick Thistle football game.
Wow,
that's one of my goals in life. Yeah.
Why
any particular reason?
Yeah, one of the travelers on an old tour. When I worked for G Adventures, I worked as a tour leader in South America, and he told me he was a diehard Partick Thistle fan, and I remember thinking like, what the hell is that?
What is that?
And he was like, it's a football team, and I'm like,
red
what the hell
and yellow,
is that?
red and yellow stripes.
Yeah. You mean like the green and white one? He goes, no. I'm like, then you mean like the blue and white one? He goes, no. I'm like,
oh no.
Yeah.
Don't say blue and white.
Yeah, exactly.
I am the green and white one, even though I've got a blue top on.
Nice. But I'll never forget that, right? He told me like if you ever go to Scotland, you got to go to a Partick Thistle match. So
there we go. Well, Partick Thistle's been mentioned on the podcast, even though no one knows about this podcast. But there we go.
It doesn't matter, man. It's a fun chance for us to do this.
Supporter, is he not?
Sorry?
Oh yeah.
I think Billy Connolly is a supporter of Partick Thistle. I may be
he
wrong.
Is, yeah. Actually, no, he's Celtic actually, because he goes to the Celtic games with Rod Stewart. With Rod Stewart looks like a reptile. Rod, you're not watching, are you? You won't be watching this, so we can say that. Don't worry. Well, I'm arguably, you just look like a reptile. You get older and you start.
We can look forward to an angry email from Rod Stewart now.
Yeah. It's okay. This is not mainstream TV, so we're fine.
You're starting to sound like Gavin Hardcastle now with his like, I got a face like a, I don't know. Like
yeah. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. I've got a face like a bag of spanners. Yeah. He's always got like a line for everything.
I've got a face like a
He should have his own kind of sitcom. He'll have his own sitcom, that guy. I know, he reminds me of Brent, between David Brent and who's the guy that does The Office in America again? Steve Carell?
Yeah,
It's like
Steve
Steve
Carell.
Carell and David Brent together. or sorry, Ricky Gervais and Steve
Ricky
Carell.
Gervais, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I was watching Parks and Recreation on the airplane yesterday coming over here, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
just had me in tears, man. Like something about American awkward comedy. It's so funny.
I
Oh my
love
God.
awkward comedy.
It's
I love
all
it.
awkward comedy.
Yeah,
No, it is,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
awkward.
I'm a
Yeah.
fan of Steve Carell, Ben. Oh,
Stiller.
God.
Stiller.
Stiller.
Going back to Something About Mary, you know, that's quite bad.
Yeah,
That's
it's
way
Ben
back.
Stiller, right?
Ben Stiller.
Alistair, you just
Ben
nailed that.
Stiller.
I just
Oh, man, I
nailed it.
love it.
Give
You
yourself
can't-
1 point. back on the
Sometimes it
name
pops
list.
in. It works.
Yeah, Ben Stiller is a great comedian. Well, not comedian, more of a comedian actor, isn't he? So, and, you know, I was a huge fan of Eddie Murphy in the 80s and all that kind of thing. Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, all that. They were my favourites. But at this day and age, it's all like it's situation comedy, like, you know, like just embarrassing things, you know. So, like a guy presenting a podcast, for example, and he runs out of things to say.
Yeah.
Right,
definitely.
anyway, on that, guys, we're going to move on to the images, this week's images. And don't worry, we're not going to put any cheesy music on. Stop that. You know what? So, guys, I don't know if you've seen the podcast before, Greg, with the cheesy music we put through it, the video of the guys doing choir singing. You know, it was so. I mean, it was just what it was. I suppose it was kind of really cheesy.
Well,
So
you
we
paid,
just,
come on, you paid 50 quid to have that done, surely.
oh no, no,
Years ago.
only $20. It's $20.
No.
It was $20, Alistair. So, oh, wait a minute, hold it, Jesus. Right, we're going to stop that there. Start off with looking at these images from Greg Snail and what images we have got tonight to look at. So, Greg, can you just tell us more about this first image and just the epicness of the range of the mountains and the backdrop there as well, with the leading ling of of course, the cascade of water coming down. It's beautiful.
Yeah, this is in Patagonia. It's a relatively famous landscape shot of Mount Fitzroy, which is a 3,000-meter mountain in sort of the heart of Argentine Patagonia. And this is a waterfall that's only about a 4-kilometer hike from the town of El Chalten. And it just lines up perfectly for landscape photography. And you guys can see you've got that great, foreground with the midground of the forest there. Those are lenga trees, Lenga. They are South American beech trees, and they change color in autumn, which is April. And then it's a sunrise location. So this is before sunrise, but probably half an hour, and not getting any alpine glow. But I felt like the muted tones across the entire image lend really, really well. There's not a lot of harsh light at all. And I've shot this location probably 4 or 5 times, and this continues to be one of my favorites from all of the shoots. And I captured this in 2019. And Thomas Heaton was there, and I believe a guy named Elia Locardi, who I had never met and didn't even know who he was, and he introduced himself, and I was talking to him, and then I figured out a couple days later that he was a relatively famous American photographer. I captured that shot on the same morning, so it's really nice. It's one of my favorites from Patagonia.
I love the colours, the reds and the just the burnt reds. Looking at it draws your eye into the middle of the photograph. But yeah, I mean, it's just so much to look at in there. Of course, you've got the cascades and then the midgrounds, and of course the backdrop, stunning mountain range here, beautiful.
And not a lot of editing here either. Like I'm not very heavy-handed. You'll see over the next few images. Like I'm not very good at Photoshop. I use Lightroom a lot, but I've never really been a heavy-handed editor.
All right, okay. Let's move into the next one. Guys, you got anything? Anyone want to have a little chat about this one first before we move on?
No, I mean, it's a lovely picture. Waterfall dragging your eye right up the mountain is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This is a pulls your eyes right to the backdrop, doesn't it?
I picked some of my best ones, guys. So if you don't have any comments, that's fucking great.
It's a stunning photograph, and we'll move to the next one. This is my favorite. This is my favorite because it appeals to me. I love trees, and is this in Africa? In a place in Africa somewhere?
Namibia, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I love trees too. I have 2 trees tattooed on my body actually, and I fucking love trees, man. I think trees are individual. They're all gorgeous. They give us life. I mean, they're totally underrated, and they're beautiful subjects. So here you've got this is in Namibia. It's an area called Sossusvlei National Park, and that specific location is called Deadvlei, and it's an old lagoon that has petrified trees in it. So these trees are like fossils. If you get really close to them, they've got amazing texture. You've probably seen stuff like that before, you guys. Anybody listening to this or watching it, if you've seen a petrified tree, that's exactly what these
In
are.
UK, they're called
And,
snags. In the UK, like, you know, trees that stand up and are decaying, they're called snags.
Yeah,
But yes,
yeah. And these are like baked in
Yeah.
the sun though, because this gets really hot. This spot can go up to like, 45 degrees Celsius during the day. So you have to be there super early in the morning. So this was taken just after sunrise, and the sun is hitting, just above the dune on the left and kind of cascading across on the same angle. And then you've got Big Daddy Dune, which is actually what it's called. That's creating the dark background. And that's the biggest dune in Sossusvlei National Park.
That's the dune just over there on the left.
Another kind of
back?
classic. No, it's the dune in the back. So the one on the left is still part of Big Daddy, but it's the what creates it in landscape photography. You guys probably know this is when you sort of fill the frame, so you go no sky, to remove the sky, and if you can get a really dark background with some light in between, creating depth, especially if it's on your subject. In this case, it's not really, but it creates that beautiful gap between the dune in the back and the subject of the trees.
that's what makes this picture as the backdrop and everything. Just a separation of the trees. Firstly, it's a separation, nice clean separation, and then you've got the shadows at the back and the warm light in the front. It's a stunning shot.
It's also really well separated. It's very easy here to move 1 meter, and then you got the trees are blocking each other. So you have to find a spot where the subjects are
How
separated.
long did that take you to
and
find that?
and not crossing? Well, again, I'm lucky. I've been here a few times, but I think that morning specifically, maybe half an hour.
But it's not only that though, is it?
I
It's
had to deal with some
it's
tourists.
waiting for that light as well in the background to sort of cast them shadows, like you say, to give that depth to the image. That's what sort of finishes the image off.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a beautiful shot.
And do you know how long I had for that light, Steve? Like maybe 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the sun had just crested over the dune and was kind of, really strong across that like horizon. And then within 5 minutes, it was too high, because as the sun was going up, that line of the light was going down. So, I only really had a couple minutes, and I sort of mentioned earlier, I had to deal with some tourists. So sometimes I take a bow and arrow and I just sort of like line them up, and then just to make sure they get out of the way.
Is this the same trip that Brendan was on, where somebody was trying to take a photograph like between his legs to get the same shot?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
None of us like those. Yeah. None of us like those guys.
Luckily, I was nowhere near that, and obviously getting much better results. So,
yeah, you know what? I love. I can feel the warmth from this picture. You can feel the warmth. You can actually feel the warmth from it just looking at this image. It's amazing.
That's one of my favorites. This would print to be stunning.
Yeah,
stunning.
This is what caught my attention, and there's a few more as well, and we'll go to the next one, guys. But yeah. Oh yeah, I think Alistair wants to talk about this one.
It's not so much an ask; it's more of a talk about, because I've been to Africa. I've been very lucky. I've been to South Africa several times. Getting an elephant like this is just stunning. Is this on the I can't say this country, Namibia? Is this on that same trip, or is this Serengeti or something?
Yeah. So different year, same location, Namibia. Yeah. And this is in Etosha, which is a salt pan national park. And yes, it's northern Namibia, close to the border with Angola.
That's fantastic, because we've got access to these pictures that you sent us. Thanks very much. And the detail within the elephant is stunning. When you zoom right into that, you can see the mud that it's been rolling in, just cracking and starting to peel. It's just beautiful. And what fascinates me is the picture in general is a lovely, almost two-tone image. And a lot of people, a lot of photographers will go, "Oh my God, a blank sky, what can I do with this?" And you've just embraced that completely. You've accepted that you're not going to get any detail at that sky. And I think detail in the sky would have spoiled this completely, because it's really concentrating on that elephant and the textures within the elephant. And it is absolutely stunning.
Can I ask you a question, Alistair? Does it bother you that his one tusk is missing?
No, it doesn't. I looked at that, and I tried to decide if that was an anti-poaching thing or whether he's just had a rough life and been fighting a lot. What it does to me is the lack of uniformity is actually more natural for me. If there was two perfect tusks there, it's a good image, but it might not be perfect. If you know what I mean, perfect isn't perfect at times. It's nice to have something that's just a little bit irregular, and I liked it very much.
I think what you mentioned earlier, the mud, and looking closely at the, if you go into the picture and you can see all the, of course, just the texture of the mud, etc. And when you go closer into the tusk where they want to be missing as well, so much interest to look at that image. You know, it's not just the tusk; it's everything.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there. Was that with a long lens, Greg, or was that a fairly standard lens?
No, I'm pretty certain that's a 100 to 400, maybe at 100 4.5, because I do have pretty good depth of field here.
Yeah.
I also had my 70-200 with me on that trip, 2.8, and I was using it because in Etosha you can get pretty close to these animals. But I think that was the 100 to 400. I have to look at the detail, but I think it was. Yeah. And there's this salt pan. So you see the background of the elephant. There's like a bit of a haze. That's all salt, and it just goes on and on and on. And sometimes you can get like giraffe walking across it or an elephant walking across it, and you can silhouette them in black and white, and it just looks phenomenal. So I knew that these shots were there. You know, like I've been there a few times, and I was like, I bet I can get a lone giraffe or a lone elephant. And when I saw this old boy, I just said, okay, we got to stop. We're gonna sit on this elephant for like 20 minutes, and because he was facing the other way, right? Like I just got kind of lucky that he turned and went kind of straight at me here, and then his ears were flapping too, so I had to kind of like just spray and pray. But I'm very happy with this result. This is one of my. It
didn't bother that you were just standing there then,
2 years ago,
far enough away to not be a threat.
Yeah, we're super far, and there's a lot of vehicles in this park, Doug. Like it's not. These animals are pretty used to human presence.
My experience with an elephant was at Kruger National Park, and I was with a group of kids, high schoolers, on a sports trip. I was the assistant manager, and we'd stopped at a little rest area. So it was the only time you can actually get out the vehicle is at the rest areas. And in the bush at the side of the road, we were talking like trees and whatever, there was an elephant, and it came forward, and it was sticking its head out, and the ears were flapping. And our team manager, a very, very keen photographer, walked right up. So he was on one side of the road. It was literally standing on the edge of the road, and he walked right up to the other side of the road. And you'll know how wide African dirt tracks are, not very wide. And he was taking pictures, this with a film camera, so he's like winding on, taking a picture, winding on, reframing, taking pictures. And I just turned to the lads and went, I might be the manager soon, you never know. Because this elephant was getting more and more aggravated at him, but thankfully he did eventually back away and let the elephant do what it needed to do. But it is a case of don't get near wild animals, let them have their room. And you did exactly the right thing. Use a long lens and get a cracking image. So thanks for showing that.
Yeah, when I go on safari, it's like 100 to 400 is kind of my go-to.
Yeah. Going in for the 50mm or a wide angle is not what you should be doing, which is what my colleague was doing.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of like a Benny Hill sketch if that was the case. So we'll move to the next. Sorry, Steve, Doug, anything you want to say about this image?
Go on, Doug.
Not really. I've said enough, I think.
I would just like to comment that I like we were talking about the tusk of the elephant, and that imperfection of the elephant and the age of the elephant is perfect. So, it's something. If the elephant was too perfect, it would almost be you've took it in this national park or this zoo even or something, that's there, and it's just been made up and all this, that, and the other. But the imperfection really makes the shot so much more. It just ups the level of the image completely. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, Steve, because that's why I asked Alistair. I feel like the same, and at the same time, I wonder what it would have looked like with the perfect tusk. But I also kind of feel that way about the little tuft of grass on the right hand side too, like the one little bush that's not really meant to be there. And I could have easily cloned that out, like no fucking problem. And I decided to leave it in there because of exactly what you guys are talking about. And I feel like with AI nowadays too, it's so easy to create an elephant, that looks real. So it's nice to have that story, that added interest of the one missing tusk. And you're right, it shows the age. Like, this was an old boy. He was slow, big, ready to die. And I caught him before that happened.
Cool.
So it's great.
It is. It's really. I like the whole. This is the other thing we talk about, the imperfections, and just even you talk about the grass there, a little bush bit on the right hand side, that adds to the image. You don't want like a clean cut image with a perfect elephant and just right bang in the middle. This draws your attention to everything on the elephant, and of course, just around the scene, it's really really stunning.
All I was going to say, Paul, is a new photographer today is always looking for absolute perfection, and we'd all remove that little bush on the right hand side, and the right thing to do is to leave it in without a shadow of a doubt. But a new modern photographer would be, the first thing it would do is get the AI and remove that, and it takes so much away from the image, because it relates to the elephant and his age. It is looking for them scraps of food. It's just adds to that story, and it's just a fantastic image. And I think as photographers, we need to move in that direction and keep in the imperfections, because what makes that image stand out so much. Definitely.
Yeah, there's so many people now trying to get everything right in the image. They'll, around the frame of the image, will pull things away. They'll tidy it up. They'll make it a bit too polished in a way that may just look too good. That way we'll question it. Even though, judges might say how much AI is involved in this. This image doesn't. You can just see it's been shot as it is, and that's what I like about it. It's got imperfections, and these imperfections will give it interest to the image for you to go around the image and look in more in detail and get close up to the image as well. I think it's stunning.
I do like
it's also really well balanced too, though. Yeah, I think you were about to say what I was going to say, that it's right in the middle.
I like you got the elephant, and it's tiny in the middle of the picture, and you've got this vast landscape around it. Because you do feel that the whole landscape could go on like that for miles, and I presume it does. Kind of sets it its environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So you still got a well-composed shot with like three main elements in the background too, with the color coordination's really good too. The tones are all kind of matching.
The color of the sky and the South Beach there all goes with the elephant,
This is wonderful.
So the colors, really nice.
Thanks, boys.
It could be a flag.
So we'll go to the next
African
one.
flag.
And this one. Sorry?
So it could be some African flag, white and yellow with an elephant in the middle.
Yeah, that's it. It could be a logo. Well, don't say that. So no one, if anyone's watching this, you can't do this, guys. Don't put it as a logo. You have copyright infringement now. You have Mr. Snail to answer to. So yeah, we'll go to the next one, and this one's a stunner. It's just me and Steve were looking at this just before we started the podcast, and we kind of agreed. It's just absolutely amazing, the landscape of this shot, and you can actually see you're barefooted in this image as well. Just the detail in it is great. It's really crisp.
It's a bit different, this one. That's why I put it in there. I shot this from my drone.
I thought that, yeah.
Which I don't do very often, actually. I use my drone for video. But the photo was just too perfect. And the thing that I actually really love about this one is the ripples that come out from my feet.
Yeah. it's the reflection of the ripples in it, and it looks quite spacious. It's just right. You look very remote in this image. That's what I like about it. But regards to your drones taking pictures, what's your thoughts on that, guys? I think it's another dimension to photography. I feel.
Oh, I love drone photography.
It is,
Love it.
but
Well, I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it gives you the bird's eye view. It's fantastic for volcanoes. It's really good for the Bolivian salt flats, which is where this was taken. Good for cliffs. Good for seascapes. Getting anywhere that you can't physically like stand. The only thing that it's not really good for is long exposures or like depth of field. Shallow depth of field is pretty garbage. I mean, the newest one has this like 70 millimeter lens, I think it is, that seems to be okay, but it's definitely a little bit soft. So, but for this like bird's eye view, like I said earlier, anywhere that you can't really stand for snapshots, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, what I like about the reflection of the sky as well. You're actually the ripple there, and you can see the sky, and it's like the fineness of the clouds breaking off from the center of is it a sunset?
This is sunrise, pre sunrise. Yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one actually, because this is not necessarily like one of my probably like best images, like that one from Namibia with the trees. I would say that's like one of the top 10 best images I've ever taken. But this one I wanted to throw in there because I was looking at some more recent stuff when you asked Paul, and I thought, well, I'll throw a couple in from Bolivia, this one and the next one, just because it's so different from what you've ever seen before.
So good. It's just it gives you a feel of like a spacious kind of environment. It's freedom that's got all these things shouting out in this image. That's what I like about it. And it's just a reflection of the sky. It's just absolutely pristine. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Steve? Doug, anything else you want to add to this?
Was
Again,
the sky
for me-
actually that colour?
Yeah.
You emphasised it a bit.
Go on, Doug. Sorry.
No, it was. Again, I'm not super heavy-handed.
Right.
You can see the highlights of that like light yellow color. I think I maybe brought down the highlights a little bit to give that more contrast and a little bit more vibrance, but I didn't emphasize the pink or the red. And if you don't believe me, then watch the video, because the video is much harder to fuck with. And I think it was the video footage from this. I got a shot of me walking in this exact same frame, right? And I'm walking, and the ripples are moving in like a perfect V, and it's just an incredible clip. And I thought, I have to get this as a photo, so I stopped walking and changed to photo mode. And that's when, and then I noticed that the ripples were kind of uneven. So I just gave it like a little bit of a, like a little jump. And then that's what created the circular ripples.
That's nice attention to detail. Yeah.
For me, with regard to reflections, I always like to try and get the absolute perfect reflection, and a ripple just wouldn't be acceptable. But today, because of AI and because of Photoshop and so forth, it actually makes the image more believable. It's instantly believable that you're standing there in that water. It's not faked. You haven't been superimposed on. I just love it.
So we'll move on to the next one, guys. And this is another stunning shot. I love this one.
Oh,
and of course, it's just that kind of mixture of course.
Yeah, I called this one "Waiting for the Next Train to Space."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe so as well. That is absolutely stunning. And of course, is that a torch you've got in the front of you, I presume? Yeah. Yeah, just shining down. Just adds to it. Adds to it so much.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on this too, because we shot out here for a couple hours and we got a little bored just shooting the perfect Milky Way reflection. And we actually added a Land Cruiser, which looked really fucking cool, and played with like one of those steel wool things, which looked really not cool, looked really bad. And then we tried to do like the drone, where I've got this crazy drone shot where the drone is above me with the light shining down. and it looks like just out of this world, like something from a sci-fi movie. And then this was that simple idea of the torch, but I'm so sick of seeing these laser beam shots where people like put their laser into the sky. So I was like, well, why don't I just shine it at my feet and see what happens? And then this was the result. And I kind of like it. I mean,
It's kind of
it looks cool.
A little bit of a Star Trek.
The stars
there,
are amazing.
It does what it kind of emphasizes the silhouette as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I put it waiting for the next train to space, because it's kind of like you're at a spot, like under a light.
Keep me up.
You're at the station ready to go.
Yeah, it's really nice. Steve, what's your view on this one?
But it's yes, I love the light, but the reflections of the Milky Way. Is it on the salt flats again?
Oh yeah.
Is it on the salt? Yeah. It's
yeah, exactly. That's what makes this shot, and I'm personally pretty distracted by the lights on the horizon. I thought about moving my composition, but the Milky Way was in that in that spot, and like it was, unfortunately for us, as the night moved on, the Milky Way was moving further away from the horizon, so it's got harder and harder to shoot. And I fell on this one at the end, Steve, because that cloud on the right is catching that underglow. And that's what I personally am kind of drawn to. And the reflection is kind of a given. Like we got there, and that was the first shot that we all got. Like I was with 4 other photographers, and we just set up and got the perfect reflection in the Milky Way. And then we started to try and get creative with it. But the reason I threw it in here with you guys is because it's just so different. Like this is not fake at all. I'm not very heavy-handed, as I've mentioned many times now. But you can tell, like it's not.
That's good though.
It's not a huge amount of editing here. It's just the scene.
Yeah, and I think what I've learned so far tonight with your images is, you mentioned you kind of just quite lightly edited them, sometimes not at all. But the point is, you kind of keep imperfections there in a way that actually you embrace the shot better. You embrace it more because of that. And you're talking about the light in the foreground there, well, mainly the midground, sorry. I don't see it much as a problem, the light there. I think anything, it's kind of adds to it in the case that there's a lot of things you can look at in an image. Yeah. It's kind of like, as you said about the next train, for space training there, it's got that kind of look to it where it's like in the distance is mainly some type of vessel that's traveling. It's going through the actual water or whatever. It just looks quite unique. It's got unique in its own way.
Yeah, and I do think about it too. Like I do spend a lot of time critiquing my other images from a lot of people that come on trips with me, and I enjoy it. I teach composition a lot, and I know a lot of rules about composition. So for me, it's like I think simplifying is always a good option.
Yeah,
but at the same time, which we've gone over here, and I agree with you guys 100%, having imperfection can add a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't have to just remove it because you want to simplify,
the type of photography, and your type of photography is what you're shooting, is what you're looking to try to get across, and you're not looking to take anything away from it because as you're actually given what you're looking at. Like it's kind of not the old fashioned, but it's that kind of what we should be true to ourselves in photography as much as we can. And what you're doing is you're adding things in there. Just like you're putting the torch down at your feet there. That's completely different, and it's like it does look sci-fi. That's the impression I'm getting for this image, and I think anyone gets this image and look at it, it's that kind of feeling that you're waiting. I do like it.
Yeah, that torch adds to it, and putting the torch at the ground.
Oh,
and
yeah.
not
Exactly.
It could easily be a film
Can
poster.
I-
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Epic.
And you can see around your body
Thanks,
as well.
guys.
You got the light sort of like around your body, but not like a halo, but it's kind of making you kind of stand out a bit as well.
Yeah.
And the shadow as well, which
Yeah, if I didn't have it, I'd just be black
Can I-
silhouette.
and the shadow as well.
What type of
which
settings
kind of forgot
are
about.
you using? Because with astrophotography, especially for someone that's not doing it very much, it's very easy to get the stars to trail a little bit, and you've got them really pinpoint perfect. What sort of lens were you using, and what settings can you remember?
Yeah. This is a Sony A7R5 with a 14mm 1.8 prime astro lens at probably like 10 seconds, maybe 13 seconds, ISO 1000. And then I boosted the contrast and the highlights in the sky a little bit to make the Milky Way pop, but I didn't want to overexpose. And it's not long enough that you get any movement in the stars. So if you zoom in,
so
and
for
this is
people
not
who
stacked
don't know
either,
much
like
about
this is one
astro,
shot. So
on a wide angle
that's why we
lens,
go
you're
there.
going to get less movement. So if you'd used a 70 or a 100 or 200 millimeter lens on the stars for 10 seconds, they would streak. But with the wide angle, you're not going to see that movement as much. And I think that's the great way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you do like 30 seconds, then you will see the movement. Yeah. So you need a faster aperture to be able to open up wide and not go anything over like 15 seconds. And I also have the 20 mil 1.8 from Sony, which is a really good vlogging lens and also pretty good for astro as well. So, that's about as telephoto as I would go is like 20. Like ideally you're at 16 or 14 at 2.8 or 1.8. And then you don't need to boost your ISO too high. So depending on how dark your skies are, you don't want to go higher than like 1600 ISO.
And if you're in the dark,
not higher than 15
do you focus
seconds.
on the lights and the distance to try and get your focus correct, or do you just know where you want to focus on the lens? Yeah.
Great question. So I do like the digital magnifying zoom, and then I manual focus on the individual stars. And then I do a little bit of trial and error where I'll take a shot and then zoom in to 100 on the back of the screen and see if they're sharp. But that's how I do it. I go into the magnifier in the live view on the viewfinder, and then look through the viewfinder to get that perfect shot. And I use focus peaking as well. So you can usually tell that the stars are focus peaked. Now, there are some lenses that are much easier to get to infinity. There's some manual focus astro lenses that actually have like an infinity clip and then a lock. So you can set it to infinity and then lock at infinity. Also, Canon does a pretty good job. The R5 now, when you go into manual focus, it has like this little digital thing on the bottom where it'll tell you when you're in infinity, which is pretty cool. So it depends on what camera you're using, but I think every camera could use my method, which is just going into the live view on the back of your screen, zooming in, magnifying on the subject, pulling
so
manual
a couple
focus,
of stars there that you'd
and
probably
then
target.
taking a couple shots,
like directly above your head
zoom
is
in
all
and
this
see what it looks
core,
like.
then there's 2 stars above. You sort of find those, zoom in on them. That sounds a good way to do it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one, guys.
Well, another question first before we move on, Paul. You've got there what I like, and I just noticed it just now. The clouds in the reflection are acting as leading lines pointing directly towards where you're standing. How long did it take you to get that, or was it just a happy accident?
No, not a happy accident. The position of the Milky Way was really determining the composition, and we were sort of spread out in a line to not get into anybody's frame. And I thought about kind of twisting my composition towards that cloud, but then I lost too much in the Milky Way, so that I went the other way and I lost the cloud. And I was like, well, shit, I can't be in this cloud. I have to be like right on the edge. And then it kind of turned out that the light facing down is stronger on the left-hand side. And that was totally by chance. So that the light and the cloud kind of lead. But my position is right where I want it to be.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's also, again, like the elephant kind of right in the middle. But you'll notice that I'm now in the bottom third instead of, because I wanted more of the sky. And less of the reflection.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's certainly got that effect with regards to the middle. You're steering, of course, at the main subject yourself.
And the horizon is on the third line of the
the Milky Way, but even just like if you put in a crop to like one by one at the top and just cutting, you've got 2 images there that are beautiful. Just looking at that Milky Way is absolutely amazing.
It's a very well balanced image, isn't it? Very well balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could have gone wider, guys. Honestly, like I have the 12 to 24 2.8, and next time I go to Bolivia, I'm gonna bring it with me because this is at 14. I mean, come on, you could go fucking 10 times wider. It would look awesome. So
absolutely stunning. Thank you for that one as well, sharing it. It's absolutely stunning photography. Moving on to this one here was like another one I loved. Yeah.
now this is one of my favorites of all time. This can go with Namibia.
Yes.
I'm really interested to hear what you guys think of this. Also, where do you think this was taken? I hope I didn't tag it. So you don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to say is.
I'm going to go for the opposite.
Well, I think it's a bit too obvious. I'm going to say, but I'm going to go for Iceland.
The
Antarctica, maybe?
Chile,
Nope.
Argentina area. No.
No. Paul was closer. Steve, you got
Well, I
a
was
guess?
going to say Iceland, so
Norway's the
Doug,
best.
last remaining
I don't
option
know,
here.
Norway or something. Isn't
All the money's on Doug.
Norway.
Of course it is.
It is not Norway. This is in Greenland.
That's appropriate.
Of course it is. Look at those green northern
The
lights.
clues in the picture.
So, yeah, this is stunning. I mean, I've been very lucky to see the northern lights a couple times in my young life, but this was by far the best show. And I was running a trip with Brendan Van Son and I think 5 other people, so a relatively small group. And the guys we had a long day, and Brendan went to bed after shooting the what do you call it, Northern Lights. And I stayed up with a Norwegian guy who's living in Singapore, and we just basically stayed up all night. And we found this river, and this was taken at like 3:30 in the morning. And we just started to get creative again, kind of like Bolivia. When you're in the right place and you got the right kit and you know what you're doing, you can kind of play around a little bit, which I love, and this was the first time that I ever got like an interesting foreground with.
Yeah, I was going to say that the foreground is amazing, and plus with the light hitting the foreground as well, it just adds more to it. It's with the green hitting the side of the stones, and the highlights are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one too. You've got a Y in the river.
Yeah.
Like there was 2 streams converging.
You can see that, yeah.
And I tried to shoot like different compositions, and I think if I had more time, I could probably find an even better one because I didn't go there during the day. It was kind of like a night scout. We just found this like while the Northern Lights were happening, but yeah, this one's
Yeah, it's
stunning.
amazing.
I love
And in regards to standing there, how long were you standing there? The exposure.
Hours.
Yeah.
I mean, for this exact photo, this is pretty long actually. I think this is like 15 seconds.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I suppose it's the memories as well on taking that image, the story of that night as well will stick with you forever. Just being there.
Yeah, you know what? I can't remember now actually if this is a blend because I don't think I was shooting the Northern Lights for so long that night. I think the Northern Lights were much faster exposure.
Right, okay.
Like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So I might have actually blended these two together because I took tons of photos at that location. And I may have put the foreground in. I'd have to go back and look at my Lightroom catalog.
It's just kind of stacked in a way that, and that's it. I mean, it's almost like, well, looking at the image here, it looks like it's front from back, kind of in sharpness.
It might be focus stacked as well, actually. Yeah.
Stunning image. Mm-hmm. Really nice. And it's obviously the colours as well. There's the greens, and then at the top you go, it's a blue, the deep blue purple. I mean, I'm colourblind here sometimes. I'm just looking at that. But to me, I'm getting purple for this as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Yeah, we had the Northern Lights in UK. And for a short period of time, it was like a couple of days we had it.
Did you guys get a chance to go out and photograph that?
Not me. I fell asleep. I didn't know. I'm actually really, really pissed off because the night after it, they said it's going to happen again. So I rocked up at the place called Cramond, which is north facing, of course. And it was all these photographers there with their tripods out, and I thought I'll go a bit further out. So I kind of went out to this. I know where these kind of snag trees are. We're talking about dead trees that are kind of standing up, called snags. And wanted to take a picture of the snag tree and the northern lights above it. And I had to go through. I actually fell down a ditch and I got covered in mud, everything. And then I fell into like all these jaggy nettles, weeds and things. And I was like, scratching everything. Set up the tripod, nothing there. Waited, nothing. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go back at the top, sitting in the car, have a coffee, and then go back down. I was there till about 3 a.m. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So these guys, like Steve and the other guys, got the images.
I was
I just went to my park.
a festival. I was actually at a festival, and I'd had
10 pints of lager, Steve, and you still got a good picture.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd had about 10 pints, and I thought I've got to try and get this event. It's never going to happen again. I was sort of Middle England, let's say. That's where I was, and very rare you'll get the Northern Lights coming that far south. And I was actually shooting facing southwest, I think it was, shooting Northern Lights. It was unbelievable, and even though I was quite tipsy, all that sort of went to one side, and honest to God, it was amazing. But I didn't really get a good foreground composition. I got one that was okay. It's okay. I've had it printed and put in a book, but
no,
it is so. The thing is, in the UK, even if it's forecast, the chances of it actually happening are very slim. So the amount of times I've actually gone out, travelled a good distance to maybe get it. So you've got to really put the effort in to have like a very slim result.
So.
Yeah, but that night was just something else. That was. It was just something else.
Yeah, the northwest of Scotland, you can probably catch the Northern Lights.
Yeah,
pretty much from the end of the year, etc. It comes pretty much often that way. Northeast of Scotland, northwest of Scotland. But yeah, it's one of these things, as Steve said. It's like you do have to travel. You do have to really do your homework to plan ahead when it's going to be, and these poor guys like myself who just rock up and get the tripod set up and then sit there for about 3 a.m, fall in ditches and covered in muds and scratches, etc., and going home with nothing in my camera.
Yeah, that happens. Steve, that's is that looking straight up at the sky?
That was literally above your head. That was, and then,
that's looking straight up, right?
Now you can imagine. I've had 10 points.
Yeah, I find
10 points. I didn't do bad.
What? 10 pints? Christ.
Were you crying at the natural beauty? Just weeping in the field? It's so beautiful. Bring me another.
Imagine you spinning around going,
I did that anyway after 10 points.
Man, the first time I saw the Northern Lights, I was high on mushrooms in British Columbia. Just looking at the sky, being like, what the fuck is happening?
Okay, guys, let's go to the next one. That's a stunning image, and thank you, Greg. Oh yeah, this one, I think Darren wanted to ask about this one. Darren is one of the guys.
It's very different, boys.
He's talking about this is in Germany, isn't it? Of course. It's Hamburg.
No, this is in.
Oh, it's in Georgia. Right. Okay. So
Georgia.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is very different. So I wanted to throw a bit of a curveball for you, Paul, and just I was picking some of my bangers from landscape and stuff that's a little different because I know the subject of the podcast. But this one is, just to shake it up a little bit and see what you guys think of this.
What I like about it is the two characters. They look very like post-communism kind of thing. So it's Soviet era. And at the top, you've got the decaying ceiling. And obviously the walls peeling back. I mean, and then the triangle at the top, the beautiful composition of the triangle.
Yeah.
And the steps just adding to that, the pattern going all the way down. So that's like that center column looks so interesting.
Perfect.
It's the parallel line on the left hand side at the top. So you got the frame lined up with that paintwork. It's cracking, absolutely cracking, that one.
And to me, what I like about this image is, I say the history aspect of it is it just reeks of like post kind of sort of like Cold War. You can see it's an old building. I don't know the history behind it, but of course Georgia. Presume it's kind of more like sort of the communist era, like Soviet Union.
You nailed it, man. Yeah, you nailed it. USSR, government building, just falling to bits. 12 mil on the Sony, so super wide, and right backed into the corner to try and get as much detail in as possible. This is an HDR, so it's I think a 5-shot bracket and then just HDR blend in Lightroom.
Right, so that's why so much detail to pick.
Trying to get a little bit. I mean, I'm not an HDR expert, but I'm trying to bring the shadows because there's a lot of bright light coming out of that.
Did you have a lot of problems with distortion?
So I think I probably could have been there at a better time of day. No, because this lens is like a unicorn lens, the 12 to 24 2.8 what do you say? There's a word for it. Like it's lenticular. It's not very distorted, which is why it's so bloody expensive.
Yeah.
Rectilinear. That's the word. Rectilinear.
Yeah.
So you can actually even use the transform tool in Lightroom for architecture, which kind of bends your lines a little bit, and it does a pretty damn good job. But in this case, I didn't do much of the warping or transforming because of that parallel line that Alistair mentioned. I love that line on the left. I absolutely wanted that line. And there's a lot of really strong diagonal lines in this composition that lend to the overall shape of a staircase, which is of course super diagonal.
Yeah. So much interest in the shot.
And I love the hole in the ceiling.
Yeah, I love the ceiling.
It's
the two pictures that have been in the ceiling. Just even though like everything's lined up perfectly, and of course the triangle, etc. Just it frames it beautifully, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful frame in a frame.
Yeah, this would be a fantastic print, guys. Like the quality in this is very, very good. It's very sharp.
I know you would like this image. And have you ever seen Bald and Bankrupt? The guy's on YouTube and he does visit all these ex-communist places. And he does like a narrative of going through old buildings of the post-USSR, etc. And he takes pictures and things.
No, I haven't, but
look him up. Bald and Bankrupt, he's called. The guy's he's like a retired sort of like. He had his own business, etc., and he's kind of living off his money, and he's visiting like post kind of like communism places like Georgia, etc. Doesn't do much of it now because of the Ukraine, etc. But he does go to these places, and he goes to places of interest, like sort of like government buildings of the USSR, etc. Really interesting. Does a bit of backdrop history.
That's exactly what this
Sorry?
is. That's exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you'd love, that kind of shot.
Yeah.
You'd probably look into it, but it's a crack.
Yeah, we just walked right in too. Like the door's wide open. It's actually still being used as like an office, which I find crazy.
And it's just kind of it's weird that I mean Georgia itself is not well, it is, I suppose. There is that kind of sort of part Russia, not Russia, but there is that partness of the locals still believe in the sort of the old values, etc. But it's interesting why they've got the two leaders. Like I'm assuming it's pretty much from the communist era, and that these kind of like motifs, etc., kind of around the building. It's very symbolic of that time, and it's quite an interesting image to just keep and look at, and just kind of people will be asking questions about this image. It's one of these images that it's not just take the image; it's a beautiful image, but there's so much in it that people would be wanting to know about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I find I put sometimes a little bit of pressure on myself to find these locations because I don't think that this will be able to be photographed in like 5 years.
Yeah, I'll be.
I mean, maybe, but it would be lucky because more money comes in, more development, and people are going to start ripping these down and building.
Interesting, yeah, because to me, we have listed buildings in Edinburgh or in the UK or whatever, of course, and even America and Canada have that, I suppose. If it's like part of history of any form, and this does look like that's from an era.
Yeah, but your history is like something that you're proud of, right?
Yeah.
The Georgians are not happy about USSR occupation. Yeah. The Georgians don't want Russia.
Yeah, exactly. I think they'll probably want to get rid of that, but
they would probably tear it down. So that's why it's kind of strange that it's still there, but it's obviously just falling to ruin because they don't want to pay to renovate it or rebuild. But I'm actually thinking about starting to focus a little bit more on Bosnia and Serbia and Kosovo and northern Montenegro and eastern Croatia away from the coast. There's a lot in that region, and it's kind of untouched. In landscape photography, most people go to Slovenia, but for regard to like culture and history and landscape, that whole former Yugoslavia is very interesting.
I do find these areas are really interesting as well. These ex-communist places. Yeah, really nice.
Now, I think that's the last one, right, Paul?
One more. We have got a stunner.
Oh, it's one more.
One or
Okay,
two.
cool.
This is the last one, guys. And it is a stunning shot. It's the warmth of the image, even if it's a cold kind of Antarctica, of course. But you've got the penguins just looking out, and you've got this nice warmth of the sun hitting against the iceberg.
Yeah, I took that in northern Scotland on a nice sunny day.
Yeah, if I was northern Scotland, I'll be there in my shot. It's cracking.
Don't know what the fuck the penguins were doing there, though.
Yeah, they came up to
we got penguins in Edinburgh.
we do have the zoo,
Yeah, funny enough, dude, I took this from a boat, and it was a moving boat. And again, it's at like 400 at least. And I didn't think much of it. And I was editing, and, sometimes when you're editing a batch of like 1,000 photos, obviously some of them stand out. And this one stood out to me, so I tagged it, and like a week later I was editing, and I was like, okay, this has actually got a lot of potential. Yeah. And again, not heavy-handed, as you can tell. Like, I didn't boost much here at all in regard to the saturation of that warm light. I could have. And Nick Page commented on it, and he said, this is incredible. Like, this is amazing. I have to go to Antarctica. And I remember thinking, damn, if Nick Page thinks it's a good photo, then it's probably pretty good.
It's the warmth.
I need that confirmation, Like,
yeah.
Yeah, you guys are just feeding my ego right now, by the way. I hope you're recording this so you can just send it to me and watch it when I'm on my deadbed.
Send a check in the post to us. You know what? I think I love what this is. The coolness of the background and the separation of the warmth in the foreground. That's what gives it for me. I love it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that, to be honest, when you first look at the pictures, there's a small image he's spinning through, you go, yeah, it's another Antarctica one. But then you stop and you look, and you see the penguins, and that's really, it does multiple things. The first thing it does is it gives scale, and you actually understand how big this is. The second question is, how the hell did the penguins get there? I mean, they don't have hands. How did they climb that? And I was actually watching one of your Antarctic videos, and I thought, they've got bloody big claws, haven't they? I'm guessing that must be the only way, or there's an easy way round. But
no, they swim really fast, and then they kind of like porpoise out of the water, and then they
scrabble,
and then they claw with their feet. Yeah, and you're right, they got massive claws in their feet.
It is fantastic. And see, what it did is it got me watching your Antarctica trips again, and I love Antarctica, and I'd love to go. I don't think it's ever going to happen for me. But one of the questions I had for that was, when I was watching your videos in particular, especially for videography, is how do you cope with exposure? Because you're dealing with very bright conditions of snow and ice. The blueness of the icebergs has to be shown as well. And then you got images at times where you got a zodiac full of people. And what do you do? Do you do anything special, or do you just set it on, dare I say, auto and let it do its own thing?
No, I shoot in log profile, so I shoot Cinelec D or S-Log most of the time, which is Sony's video profiles for very flat images. So I'm capturing as much dynamic range as possible, and then I usually expose for the highlights. Yeah. So or expose for the shadows. Where I don't want to kill my highlights, so I'll expose so that my highlights are not overblown. How do you guys say that? I'm losing it. Is it you expose
the highlights, so you don't burn them out.
Yeah.
And then bring back the shadows afterwards. Right. But as I say, with video, it's not so easy to do that. It's not so easy to cheat. So I was forgetting about D-Log and such, and then putting on a LUT afterwards. So yeah.
I make my own like lookup table profiles, and I do like a little bit of basic color correction. So I don't have like standard LUTs. I haven't bought any from anybody else. But you're right, Alistair. It's just a game. Like, you know, managing your exposure in photography.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It changes when your subject changes, and shooting from a Zodiac is really difficult. By the way, especially shooting with a long lens. So it was a challenge.
So if
Antarctica
you were looking
videography
at
was
the
not
video I was watching, you were looking after Group 2 going into the Zodiac. What would be your advice to the photographers? And you're saying how difficult it is. What sort of settings would they be going for to make sure they don't lose anything?
high shutter, just like being on Safari. You know, even auto ISO and cap it at like 3200. You know, with our depends what you're shooting, but these like modern DSLR mirrorless cameras, you can kind of get away with like 1600 ISO, 2000 ISO on a bright day. So just shutter is everything. You know, you want to freeze frame. So wildlife, whales, penguins, seals, you got to be shooting high shutter speed to make sure that you capture that action. That was my advice. And also shooting telephoto and not getting in each other's way. In a Zodiac, you know, you have two sides of the Zodiac, and some people can stand up on one side and the other people can lean down like so that they're shooting this way. So you've got like a double pan. And then if the interest is on the other side, you just flip it. So these people are standing, these people are kneeling. And that worked out really, really well. And then I found that if there was anybody that was kind of getting in my way, or if they were from Scotland, I just kind of pushed them over, you know, just give them like just a little nudge. Yeah, because if there are 10 people on the Zodiac, you know, if you come back with 9, that's not a problem. It's when you come back with 7, then they start asking questions.
I've often feel that way when like you're taking pictures and someone in my way, just like just getting out of the way.
So another
that was tough.
Question for me for Antarctica was, as I said, it's something I'd love to do, and I don't think I'm going to get to do it because of my health. And my health issues is why I have a YouTube channel called Accessible Photography, and it's been accessible for people who have some mobility issues, but mostly sort of they can't go walking up mountains and so forth. Antarctica, to me, initially thinking about it would be like a really tough gig, and it wouldn't be easy. But watching your videos, I was noticing there was a gentleman with a stick in one of them, maybe just negotiating a bit of a slopey bit of snow, but the help getting on the Zodiacs and so forth. How would you recommend to people, or would you recommend this to people for the trip? Because it doesn't look like there's much in the way of hiking anywhere. Do you think it's a fairly easy one for people to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I was surprised. I mean, I've only been to Antarctica once, and the physical requirements were like almost nothing. I mean, it's like a cruise. It's like a photography cruise. So the landings, actually landing on land, is very restricted, mostly because of avian bird flu. They want to avoid any interaction with like penguins. You're not allowed to like lean down. You're not allowed to put your knees on the ground. You're not allowed to lie on the ground. So there's all these really strict rules. You have to sanitize. Not desanitize. Yeah, you have to sanitize your boots, your tripod legs, if you're even allowed to put down your tripod. Sometimes you weren't even allowed to do that. So it's not physically demanding at all. The hardest part, like you said, Alistair, is just getting in and out of the Zodiac. If you got bad knees, you know, being in a Zodiac for like 5 hours, maybe not the most comfortable thing, especially with the bang of the waves.
That's Steve out
like
then.
I think I'll put it with
knees are a problem. I had a surgery on one of my knees.
Right.
Yeah, it's only going to get worse with me as age catches up. But I don't think Antarctica physically was very demanding at all.
That's good. That's good to know.
It's really just demanding on the pocketbook.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bloody expensive.
Yeah. So if
one of my goals was to get paid to go to Antarctica, so I can check that one off. Now I'm going again.
That's what you do, of course, and you do it very well as well. Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, I studied tourism, so I wanted to travel. Like one of my main goals was to get paid to travel. You know, it's sort of like I can't afford to travel, so I want to get paid to travel. and then photography just kind of happened because I was getting paid to travel.
You and Brandon Van Son, it's a dream job you guys have got. To guys like us. Well, to me personally.
Yeah, maybe, but there's a hustle too, man. Like I run my own business. I don't make a lot of money. I pay a lot of taxes, and it's a hustle for sure.
Yeah.
Being a full-time photographer.
But the only balances there in life is you enjoy it. That's the main thing.
Yeah. Getting back to this image, I think I actually really like the background.
Yeah, I was going to say
as well. I feel like that one mountain kind of balances the big ass iceberg, which is really nice. And then you got that cloud kind of leading across, which gives it depth. And that's one of the things that I was first drawn to. And then of course the contrast between the warm light and
I do like the way the light is just glancing off the iceberg there at the top. Just that, I think that adds to the separation as well. So it's really nice.
And it's very late, Doug. Like this is like the last minute of light, It's not a very strong light at all. And the sun's almost right on the horizon. You can see the shadow by the penguins, like it's almost a vertical shadow or a horizontal shadow.
Right.
Yeah, the sun is right on the horizon, like it's about to go down. This is maybe 5 minutes before we lost the light completely.
It's a great time to take the shot as well. So much interest in the shot regards to the light, separation of the light as well.
Yeah, and keep in mind, guys, that this was on a moving boat.
Handheld.
So, like within 2 seconds, this shot was gone. And you had another one, which is pretty cool. But like they were coming together like this, So it's like soon before you know it, that background is gone.
That's amazing. That's one of the amazing shots. Well, it's an amazing shot to finish the images on, guys.
Yeah.
It's some cracking shots we've witnessed tonight. I'm sure the viewers have enjoyed them as well. So we're going to go back on to ourselves. I'm just going to stop sharing. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's a good mixture of images that you got there, especially with the urban, with the old building. I really liked that. We are a landscape podcast, but it's nice to mix it up a little bit. But urban and landscape is good as well.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that one, man. And I appreciate you asking me too. You just said, send me 8 images, whatever you like. And I was kind of like, okay. So that having that freedom is
yeah, it's great. And we like doing a bit of narrative to hearing, the photographer talking about the images, why you've taken them, what's the thinking process behind it, the story, etc. And that's what the whole podcast is based around as well. So to have your story for your viewers, your members and followers as well to watch us, I'm sure they'll be really interested. So we've enjoyed this, guys. And we know, of course, that you do a lot of tours, and I've looked at your website. So you do kind of workshops as well in that case, do you?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're like, you don't learn anything. It's just more of like a fun time.
Kind of informal kind of feel to it, but sometimes people learn more with that, if it's more informal.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I do know a lot about composition and obviously photography, but one thing that Brendan and I kind of have tried to do and have separated ourselves is that we do have a travel photography background, and we've worked as tour leaders in like traditional travel and tourism, and having like a travel experience, and then photography is just kind of the niche or like the bonus, but it's more about travel photography, going to places like the Bolivian Altiplano and having like a travel experience, and then photography just happens to be kind of the main theme.
Yeah.
And it's less about, editing sessions and me teaching you how to take pictures of the stars. And I mean, I can do all that stuff, but we tend to attract people who already are pretty good photographers and are just looking to do something that they wouldn't necessarily do on their own.
Yeah. And again, I was kind of speaking to Adam I think it was 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when we had him on. And we were talking about YouTube and how important YouTube was with regards to getting people out there and, just to help to promote your workshops, etc. Or, that's what mainly the crust is of, doing YouTube channels. It's just because the income is much better in regards to not so much as being monetized from YouTube, which takes a while. And if you do, it's not much. It's a case that it gets you out there, gets you recognized, and people enjoy watching you. They know you, they start to connect to you, and then they want to go in your workshops and things. With regards to yourself, how do you feel about your videos? What's the message of your videos? I mean, I think I know it watching them. But to your viewers and to people who want to watch your YouTube videos, what's your message to the viewers?
I have a vlog channel. It's mostly kind of lifestyle stuff. I try to keep it relevant. So it's videos about what I've been doing in my photography journey within like a month of making the video. I'm very good at like turning around quickly. So I could shoot a video and edit it the next day. So I try to keep it relevant, but it's not necessarily like super educational. I don't have like a good storytelling theme to every video. You know, I don't script my videos. I don't do a lot of voiceover work. So it really does have kind of a vlog feel to it. And I've got a nice little dedicated audience, but I also don't have a huge opportunity for growth. I don't have such a high ceiling. And that's something that I've had to come to terms with. But I do it because I enjoy making the videos, and I do get a chance to market my business, which is the adventure photography trips and selling videos to clients. So it is one of the best marketing channels. And then going back to like traditional travel and tourism, if I wanted to try and sell my trips, I would have to partner with agencies and people that take a cut from selling my tours, and they would sell my tours without knowing like who I am. You know, there would be no connection to my personality. The people coming on my trips wouldn't know who I am. They wouldn't have seen any of my videos, and they might have different expectations. You know, they might not know how funny I am or good looking, and that would be a problem. I want these people to at least have an idea of what they're getting into. You know?
And we will put a link to that below, guys, to Greg's, website, and also to.
Damn right you will. I paid you $20 for this.
Checks in the post.
So that's Canadian. That's Canadian dollars too. All right, but the YouTube thing I think is fantastic because I get to interact with people like you guys. I get to meet other photographers. So many people have so many different styles. You know, Alistair focusing on being able to get out there and see what you can do with certain limitations, and like you just take anything that you want, you know, and make it your own. And that freedom is what I value the most. So it's a cool opportunity to get your work out there, because other than that, you know, my friends and family are gonna see my photos and that's it. So having the chance to look at them with you guys, eight of shots that I'm proud of, is pretty cool.
Yeah, some amazing shots we've witnessed tonight. I'm sure the members looking at it tonight will enjoy it as well. But yeah, guys, we've had a good podcast. We've enjoyed some chat. And Greg, if you ever come to Scotland, give us a shout. Any of us,
definitely.
Sure. If you're in Edinburgh, anyway, just give me a shout. I'll take you for a beer. Weirdness.
And Steve, where are you based? Are you in Blackpool?
Don't tell him that. Don't say Blackpool to him.
I'm based in the.
Well, I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
I'm based in the Midlands, but my love is actually North Wales. And if you ever want to go there, I will take you around there, show you all the places. I know all that. But how I would describe North Wales,
want to go there, Steve,
or how I would describe Scotland is Wales is just a little tip of Scotland. You know, it's just a little insight into what you're going to do if you go up north. That's what North Wales is like. It's a super, super place. Same with the Lake District. It's a similar type of vibe. I would say actually the Lake District is more photogenic, to be honest. North Wales is more rugged.
Yeah, it's a good walk.
But as soon as you move up to Scotland, it's just unbelievable. So yeah, it's sort of a little taste before you go north. Well. That's what it is.
Yeah, Peak District as well is another good part of England. Yeah.
So
there's some cracking shots there.
Yeah, I was down on the south coast last week. So.
Well, right on. Thanks, Paul. I was just going to say, well, that sounds fantastic. I mean, there's so much knowledge.
Yeah, I'm
here,
sure. I mean, if regards to Scotland, regards to Doug's books, he's got like a little walk place taking you off the tourism track, maybe showing you places of interest, etc. But yeah, if you're up the side of the neck of the woods, give us a call, give us a text message, and we'll point in the right direction, places to go to, and give you some good locations.
I've got a really old caravan we could use as well. So
I don't think I'm going to go there again. Not going to go there again.
Yeah. That was the question I was going to ask earlier on. There was a name for that camper van that you had, that trailer you had with F4, and it's been bothering me for the last hour and a half or so. What was it called? It's a stupid name.
Yeah, I want to say Dirty McNasty, but I don't think that's what it was called.
Was it? I don't know.
What the fuck was it
Prepared for
called?
anything for that? No, I don't know. It's like
Yeah, Doug, that'll bother me too. Oh, it was something dirty.
yeah.
The Death Wagon or something
That could
like
be
that.
it.
I can't remember.
It was something like that.
Yeah, no, it was something about it being like the murder box.
Murder
That
box was
the
definitely
murder box.
mentioned.
Murder box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah.
I think it was
Mother
the murder
box.
box.
Must be murder to live.
And that was Gavin
it would be.
Hardcastle. who
It's a
named it
surprise.
The murder box.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and then I had a brand in my mind for Dirty McNasty photo
Oh, yeah.
killers, but it was going to be DURRTY,
so it was like sleazy.
so like dirty, and then M, a capital M, small c, and then capital N.
That would be great if you did that
like
as well,
Scottish.
podcast.
McNasty. Do you have anybody called McNasty in Scotland?
Not nasty.
I can do a Scottish accent, by the way.
Not
You guys
officially,
wanna
but
hear?
I'm sure you could be one.
Yeah, McNasty. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys know? Oh no, maybe it's more Irish actually. But in Newfoundland, we have some funny people in Newfies in Canada. They speak sort of like this, like, "Oh yeah, boy, it's been a good day out on the sea. We got some fish in the boat, and I thought to myself, I'm going to go down there to the market and try and sell me some fish,
That's like Northern Irish.
and maybe take them back to Mum's place." Is that maybe
Irish.
more
That's
Irish?
more
than-
Irish. I'll say it's like more
Yeah.
Northern
Scottish.
Irish, maybe.
Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's quite
Yeah.
hard. I can't even do an Irish accent. Getting back to photography, guys, as we are a photography channel after all. No, sorry. So we normally ask our people come on to the podcast if they want to come on again, just to be invited to come on for a chat. Would that be something you'd be interested to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Really,
I knew the
really
guys.
appreciate it.
I knew the guys from the Irish Photography Podcast quite
Yeah,
well.
you guys are good.
Darren and Dearmid. So I would love to continue doing something like that because Dearmid kind of took off there, and since then it's been sort of hit or miss. So whenever you are interested, I would love to jump on board. It'd actually be really fun to get like Thomas Heaton or Nick Page at the same time.
Well, I was thinking of doing.
and
Well,
get a bit of banter.
kind of not really thought about Thomas too much because I know he's quite a busy man and I don't think he doesn't like doing podcasts much anyway. But I've not seen him many, that is, so I'm only going by that. But what I was thinking of doing at the end of the year towards Christmas is getting like a few guys on who've been on already, and just maybe like the 2 or 3 of us, and just kind of get about maybe the most 8 of us all together, and just more of like a informal chat, bit of a laugh, bit of photography and everything, as opposed to being a bit too serious and showing images. You can do that, of course, but we'll keep it a bit kind of.
I'd love to critique your images.
Oh, yeah.
That's always fun.
Right, okay. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. You know what?
Like
I've
that
got
as well,
squeaky
so
bum
Well,
time.
you quite like that one.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be better if you drank 10 pints before. But
It's very true.
Before and
Very-
after taking an
very
image.
true.
I think it'll be squeaky bum time for that case of these guys actually doing the. I think. Yeah, you know
I
what?
think
I
you
think
learn
we'll
so much
take you up
from
on
it, to be
that.
honest.
That's what we'll do. We'll get.
yeah, that'd be fun.
Sorry,
Yeah, you will. You absolutely will.
we will do that. We'll do that.
100%.
That'd be great.
Flip it.
If you guys did one episode where you all critique each other's images, that
We'll
would
be
really
falling
fun.
out with each other probably by the end and killing each other by the end
We-
of it, probably. But yeah,
To be honest,
That's what
We
I'm
have-
here
yeah,
for,
you
man.
can do the referee.
That's what I'm
You can
looking
say,
for.
right, okay, in the red corner.
we have discussed it.
Right.
We have discussed it. I think we're just cowards.
Yeah. We haven't got the balls to do it. That's the problem. You know?
Let's do it.
Yeah, it'd be easier for me to do it because I don't know any of you guys personally. So it would be, I think it would be fun episode. So I'm definitely up for
You know,
something.
yeah,
do
I'm
it.
going to
Let's
stick
do
to
it.
that actually.
Yeah.
I think we'll.
That sounds
I think
like a
we'll do
plan to
that.
me.
We're going to do that. So anyway,
Yeah.
you guys have heard that. I'm going to put this out. I'm not going to pause it. I'm going to put that out. You guys heard that first. So what we're going to do is actually get the pros on, and we're going to just flip it over. You guys can interview us, and they can critique our images, and we'll just be guests. How was that? I think that'll be quite cool. Actually,
Yeah, I
Let's
did
do
it once for the Irish Photography
Yeah, let's do
Podcast.
it.
It
Let's
was
do
their 100th episode, and I decided to interview
Yeah,
them.
and you guys can do the all kind of plugs and whatever you want to do. They even put the clapping involved in it. You know, kind of start clapping and yeah, we do everything. Great. Oh yeah, that's enough. So these cheap programs you get.
Keep in mind, you're talking to a video editor, so I have a whole sound design. Like,
Not like what I've got here.
Studio.
This is like a free kind of plug-in I've got here with Riverside. And Riverside, if you're watching, get in touch.
It's called the Cheese Monster.
I'm not Gavin Hardcastle, for God's sake.
Is this sponsored by Squarespace?
No, it's not. It's sponsored by Steve Stain's K&F material. Ones he gets like tripod. He's got 2 tripods there right now.
Yeah.
One's £300 and one's £200, and he gets them for nothing from K&F.
Wait, you mean the price? I thought you meant the weight.
Oh no,
for a
the
second.
price.
I was like,
The
how do you
price is
get a 200-pound
tripod.
We're metric.
Oh yeah, kilos.
That tripod must be made out of steel.
Kilos. Yeah.
I think my
pounds
first tripod was damn heavy, I must admit. It's,
yeah.
Back in the day, the full aluminium kit, and
Oh, yeah.
and aluminium's that wasn't light aluminium in those days.
Yeah, you stuck it in the
Yeah, man,
sand.
some of those video tripods with like this
Yeah,
big video
yeah.
head on it, and I'm like, how do you even carry that shit around? Like, I don't get it at all.
Yeah, always, man.
But then again, I carry around a gimbal.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's so much when you're doing vlogs and everything. It's so much weight. And people don't appreciate that when you're going up hills, and
Yeah.
it's a bit of a backbreaker. As you get older, you do feel it. It starts taking.
Then you
toll.
wonder why your knees are.
Yeah, when you get bad knees like Steve.
Yeah, it's Steve, of course.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm the youngest here, apart from Greg. But yeah, I like it. That's what you say that actually.
Oh yeah.
But
I don't know if you're younger than me,
years,
man.
but yeah, but
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I'm 51, but just turned it.
Oh,
So, wait that out. Get that easy. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching another Landscape Lenscast podcast. We've enjoyed this tonight, and just want to say thanks again for Greg to come on and witnessing your images. It's been absolutely stunning. It's been a pleasure to view them as well. So, what's up for Greg coming up? What you going to be doing in the next few months or whatever?
Well, I'm in Canada for vacation right now with my family. My wife is German, and we have a 3-year-old son. So the opportunity for him to spend time with my mother and father is really important. So he's going to have 3 weeks in Canada, and we're sort of on vacation. We just arrived yesterday. And from here, I'm going back to Europe. I live in Germany, North Germany, Hamburg, and going to Madeira for a retreat style, where we've got a villa rented on Madeira and a car, and people can bring their significant others and kind of have more of like a community workshop than less of like a travel tour. So Madeira, luckily you can drive around. So that's going to be interesting. I've never done anything like that before. They're selling it as like a retreat. So we rented a 10-room villa with a cooking staff and a pool. And it's more of like a vacation with photography trips. And then people are bringing their wives. And I don't think we got any kids, but it's a mix. So that's going to be interesting.
Alcohol will be consumed, I presume.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, most likely. And lots of good food.
Oh yeah. It goes on, of course. Yeah, I'm sure I'll have a great time with that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm lucky. I mean, I run my own business, so I can kind of make my own schedule. And as long as I'm making enough money to keep going, then we're in business.
Work hard, play hard.
But this has been a lot of fun, Paul. I really thank you for sort of showing my images there and getting the opportunity to chat with you, Doug, and Steve and Alistair. So thank you guys.
Pleasure. And thank you for coming on, Greg. Guys, we're just going to wrap up now. So Steve, Doug, and Alistair, thanks again for coming on, guys. You guys are the backbone of this. The people who help me out in this podcast do make a difference. And as ever, the guests are the cherry on the cake. And that's the top of the best thing about it. And that's people like Greg that come on, etc. So, guys, thanks, Greg. Pleasure for coming on. It's been great having you on. And we look forward to see more of your work and more of your videos in the future as well. So, take care, guys. Bye-bye. See you later. Have a good night. All the best.
Bye.
All the best. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.